Episode number 5.
What?
I'm so excited for today's episode, but before we talk about everything we're going to talk about,
Sorry.
freaking put your shit in mute. God damn it.
I feel like this has been one of our most talked about or most requested episodes.
Yes.
To date. Like
Toddler Tantrums.
But everything that has to do with Toddler Tantrums.
Everybody wants to know what we do. Everybody, and by everybody I mean like 3 people, but those 3 people mean everything to us.
It's a few more than 3. We're not that lame.
Well, before we get started, I just want to say that my week has been insane.
Hasn't Holy been working a lot? He started a new contract,
Yeah,
right?
he started a new contract, and luckily the day that we're recording this, he's about to go on a 5-day break, but he just got off like a 7-day stretch. It was not easy, let me tell you, because at the same time that he goes on this 7-week stretch, we get shut down again. So even our parks are closed.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I've gotten used to taking the kids to the park every single day, basically, to get their energy out. And let me tell you, it was not... I've been trying to find things to do, but everything's closed down by where we live. You know what just sucks, though, is that we don't live near San Diego County, so we have to drive down here in order to do all the fun things. But
No, I should just move down here.
We really want to.
I wish. That'd be so much fun.
We're actually still, considering, as long as it's before, San Clemente, still considering moving down here, just because we love the vibe down here so much.
I love San Diego.
We for sure know that when, for those who don't know, we are in a house right now. We own a home that we live in right now, but it's not our forever home.
Yeah.
We are on the search.
It's a good first home.
It is a great first home, but we're on the search for forever home because I never want to move again after we find our forever home.
I wish that was my case.
I know, and you're just moving
I'll be moving for the rest of my life.
Oh my God.
Well, anyways, guys, happy freaking Monday.
Good morning.
I love waking up and listening to all podcasts in the morning, especially motivational podcasts. I mean, this isn't a very motivational podcast, but I mean, it's girl talk. We can start the week off by talking and hanging out and getting all the frustration of toddler tantrums out the way. And for those that are here for the first time, I am Bianca, and I am a work-at-home mom to 2 beautiful little girls.
And I'm Crystal. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 2 littles, a little boy and a little girl. You're listening to the Messy Buns and Coffee Runs podcast.
This is a no bullshit girl talk through all things mamahood and lifestyle, where there's a place for everyone. By the way, how the heck was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, well, I mean, we did spend it together.
Well, you were gone.
Well, okay, so Thanksgiving. My husband was working this year. It fucking sucked, dude.
Yeah.
He worked in the COVID ICU unit out in LA, and so we had to spend Thanksgiving without him. So that was shit.
It's the worst.
What can we do? But we spent Thanksgiving with you guys in the second half, but in the morning, because I knew I wouldn't be able, usually the way we do Thanksgivings is we split it. We spend first half with mom and then second half with his mom.
Which I find so interesting because Ethan's family isn't from here, so he really doesn't have any family here. So all the holidays are usually spent, at least on our end, we never have to split holidays. So we're always with mom and dad, always at the house.
Yeah.
So I always wondered how that works for you. Every year, do you guys split it the same way? Do you
Every year we split it the same way.
So
Nothing changes.
You're in the morning with his family, ours in the evening, or do you switch it every now and then?
So before we had kids, we just spend the mornings amongst ourselves hanging out, and then we go to mom's first for dinner, and then we leave, and then we go to his family. Because his family usually has a party when they do Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And ours is more just dinner and then hanging out afterwards.
Watching movies.
So we go to his house for the party and stuff. So then, but when we started having kids, it became a little bit more difficult because bedtimes. And, my kids go to bed early. So the way we did it this year, because there was no way I was going to be able to go to mom's house by 4:30, 5 o'clock when the kids go down by 7 and still have time to go to his mom's house. So this year, especially with COVID and stuff, his mom came to us and she hung out from the morning all the way until we were getting ready to leave.
That's so sweet of her.
Yeah, she just wanted to make sure she got to spend time with the kids.
And it's so helpful, so you don't have to go and take the kids by yourself.
Oh, yeah, she got to... And it was great because she brought Thanksgiving to us, so she brought breakfast.
I love that.
Yeah, and then she brought ham, she brought mash, she brought all of this stuff to eat.
So sweet.
So we had our own little mini Thanksgiving in the house with my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law and my brother-in-laws. They came over too. And then we got dressed, and then we went to mom's house, and we all spent Thanksgiving together, and then we just went home. It was nice.
Yeah, this is actually the first year that we didn't go straight to mom and dad's. We didn't get there till the afternoon, but Ethan has some nieces that live in San Diego, and they were in town for a little bit, and we wanted to see them for a second. So, because they left that day.
That's right.
So we got up and went to San Diego. They live by Miramar. And then we went to San Diego, spent an hour or two with them, and then we drove to Long Beach. But we were there still by noon or 1. But even then, I mean, mom was so busy cooking, she didn't even notice we weren't there in the morning. But usually we're there all the time.
It's so funny because a lot of people actually have a really difficult time splitting up the holidays with their significant other, and I've never had an issue doing it.
I love that.
You would figure it would be more difficult because he's really close to his family, just like I am to mine.
It's not like one family's closer than the other. Both of you guys are pretty involved within each other's family.
So it was never even a question, but it brings me up to like something for people to think about is we were forced to go on this marriage retreat before we got married by the church that we were getting married at. But it was super helpful. So happy we went. But there was questions. They made like this exercise, and I can get into this later in an episode because I think it's like warrants like talking more about. But it was funny. They brought up that question about like these things in marriage that are more of the likely things to happen in your marriage, the day-to-day things. And this is one of them things that causes actually a lot of fights and a lot of divorce is how you split up holidays. So when we talked about it from then on, we were like absolutely 100% positive that we would always be 50-50 on holidays and be fair.
See, I love that. I love that you guys talked about this prior to getting married. I feel like stuff like that is so important to talk about. That's super important too. Well, speaking of the holidays, you know what I'm curious about is how you guys do gifts. Like, for your husband, like for each other, and then also for the kids.
Okay, so Julio and I give each other gifts. One gift.
Okay.
So we do like 3 gifts technically, but one is always like a super, and I say cheap as in inexpensive, but super cheap gift, but almost like a joke. Yeah. It's like a funny. But then we give one like serious gift, but it doesn't have to be expensive. Like it just has to be meaningful. More than anything, it has to be super, super meaningful. And then when it comes to the kids, we honestly only give the kids, well, it'll be Camila's first time. So, but the way we kind of like, even just this year, the way we're doing is we're getting the kids like one gift, 1 or 2 gifts maybe, because we have so much family. We know that they get gifts.
Gonna get
so
spoiled.
there's just no point in, I don't want to spoil my children. You know what I mean? So one gift from us, 1 gift from Santa Claus, and from that.
We kind of do something a little similar with the kids. We do 1 gift from mom and dad, 1 gift from Santa, and then they pick out a gift for each other.
That's sweet.
But they're a little bit older, so they can do that now. That's what we do for the kids, but for each other, unless one of us really wants something, we don't really do gifts. We do, we'll just plan like a nicer date night because we love date nights.
Oh yeah.
So we'll get a babysitter and we'll go to. We love Texas de Brazil. Oh my god, it's so good. We'll go and just have like a nicer date night. Yeah. Because normally we'll do something a little bit cheaper, like Chili's, Applebee's, or like Cheesecake Factory.
But we'll like for 20.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hell yeah, with the margaritas included. But instead, we'll do like a date night or stuff, unless one of us really wants something. Like Ethan really needs a new laptop because he's gonna be starting school in a couple weeks, or like in a month. So he says that's gonna be his gift, but because it's expensive, he doesn't want like a gift. Yeah. Which makes sense, and there's nothing I really want. And so when we know we're gonna be already spending money on something like that, there's no point in getting gifts.
Yeah.
Let's just do a nice date night where we're enjoying it a little bit more than just like a monetary gift.
I totally agree with you on that one. Toddler fucking tantrums. And let me preface this by saying something. Adults throw tantrums too. They are not exclusive to toddlers. Don't act. No one lie to yourself because we're being real here.
I throw tantrums all the time.
As adults,
we just call them being dramatic. Yeah, but it's a fucking tantrum.
It's a tantrum. Like, let's be honest. If you didn't learn how to deal with tantrums when you're a kid, you throw tantrums when you're older. Yeah. Let's be real. And I'm going to say something to today's, like, this is probably going to be controversial, but this whole, like, thinking it's cute that she has an attitude is not fucking cute.
I don't like it.
She throws a tantrum because, oh my God, you said no to the princess. Yes, it's funny because it's a joke, but no. We're adults here. Stop glorifying that shit.
Yeah.
So first off, let's also, before we get into this, because I definitely want to ask you about why you think kids do it in the first place. I do want to say something for anybody who needs to hear this. And I think I've told you this when we tried to record the other day and we totally failed at it because the technology wasn't working. Handful of things here. 1, I am not here. We are not here to change minds and fucking hearts, okay? I'm not a fucking politician or a fucking mayor looking for your vote. This is the way we do things because this is how we deem it appropriate in our home.
Based off of what we learned from our past, we learned from research, from
education,
classes.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is just based off of what we learned and what we feel is best for our kids. You are mother knows best.
We are telling you how we do things in our house. We are not telling you how to do things in your home.
Exactly. So if you do things drastically different, that's totally fine. Okay. Whatever works for you. But if you're listening to this, trying to find tips and tricks, this is what works for us. It may work for you. It may not. So take it with a grain of salt. But
Also, I want to say something before we jump into this. I don't know if anybody else was kind of like told this or like felt this from the world before they were pregnant or while they were pregnant. I feel like especially while you're pregnant, that like people almost like treat kids like they're another species. Like you think adults and we're humans, we're people. You always say like people make mistakes, right? We're only human. Yet like kids are just held to this different standard. Like they're a different species who needs to be treated separately than adults, but all they really are is just
mini adults.
Absolutely. They're mini fucking humans.
Yeah.
So getting into it, why do you think kids throw tantrums?
So I just feel like this can go so many different ways. Based off of my experience, I have 2 girls. I have Annabelle and Vivian. Annabelle's the older one. Annabelle started getting into that tantrum stage when she was like, I want to say like 15 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. That's when the tantrums began.
Right.
I also noticed at this time that Annabelle had a lot of developmental delays. And she started speech and OT at a young age. Mm-hmm. Speech and occupational therapy. That's what OT stands for if you don't know. I personally believe that the lack of communication that they have, the not so much receptive, but expressive?
Expressive. Being able to express what they need.
I think the lack of expressive speech is a huge reason for tantrums. I'm a true believer that if they cannot communicate what they want, I can only imagine you feeling like it's stuck in your world and you're trying to express it. You don't know how, and it's just frustrating. They don't know how to handle those emotions. It's frustrating, and that leads to tantrum. And the reason why I believe this is because, like I said, Annabelle started speech and OT at a young age. Mm-hmm. And at OT, they were kind of giving me a lot of tools to deal with the tantrums. And the moment she learned sign language, Crystal, the tantrums almost disappeared completely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then you have my other daughter, Vivian, who never really had developmental delays. She speaks great. She's always been on track with everything. Leaps and bounds ahead of her sister, not in a bad way, but it's true. Developmentally, like if you compare, Vivian has ever had a tantrum stage. Mm-hmm. She never went through like a terrible twos. Annabelle was Vivian was just like a little bit more of a crybaby. She's just sensitive.
Yeah.
She cried over everything. She still kind of does, but it's just her personality, I think. But tantrums, like screaming and throwing stuff on the floor, I never worried about that with her. Mm-hmm. But she was always able to communicate with me from an early age.
But you also knew right away to get ahead of that. I'm assuming like you have the tools, right? From Annabelle knowing if this is a huge cause of tantrums, let me start working now.
So I had her evaluated for speech around, she was just under 2. And she actually still goes to speech now. What about Benjamin? Is he in the stage right now where he's throwing lots of tantrums?
So I feel like tantrums are something that is just so normal. Like it gets a bad rap because when we think tantrum, we think like bratty kid, right? But what people don't tell you about is tantrums are a super normal part of a kid's development.
Yeah.
The same way you have to learn to like eventually go to the bathroom by yourself, you have to learn how to handle your emotions. Yeah. I know it seems like this odd concept, right?
Well, you think about it. Them throwing a tantrum is a form of communication. It's not the right form of communication they should be using, but it is a form of communication.
Yeah, but just like anything else, right? You have to teach your kids. They don't know how to eat properly with forks and knives, but eventually they're going to learn because you teach them how to hold it correctly, how to chew with your mouth closed. Like these are learned skills. Kids don't know to chew with their mouth closed until you tell them. It's the same thing with tantrums. They don't know how to handle their emotions until you start teaching them. Yeah. But I completely agree with you. It's 100% the communication. When before we started teaching Ben sign language, the tantrums were he just could not convey what he needed. And it was pretty much a guessing game. Yeah. Once we started teaching him sign language, I swear, like cut in freaking half, day and freaking night. And then now he's on this path where he's trying to talk a lot more. He can say certain words. I can see that he's trying really hard. But I can see how when he can't say exactly what he means, it's frustrating.
Or you're not understanding him.
Oh, yeah. He could tell when I'm not understanding more. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't get what the jibber jabber's about. And he's like trying to tell me. And then it's like, I get why you're frustrated, dude. If I get frustrated not being able to understand you, I can only imagine being the person not being able to communicate. Yeah. You imagine like if you were like sent to go live in China and you were sent to live with a family, it would take you a really long time to, because that's just not a language, right? Like it's not a language you understand, not even close. So you'd be so frustrated just trying to communicate. You'd be using a lot of pointing and a lot of facial expression right? I mean, I know you would probably even revert it so much as to be like, no, that makes me sad. And you would probably do like, I mean, these are things you would do, right? In order to communicate.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with them. So I feel like though, because it does cause a lot of like, you know, it brings out emotions. It brings out a lot of frustration, even as us as adults. It gets a really, really bad rap.
So what are your ways of handling Benjamin's tantrums? Because I've seen Benjamin have a tantrum and I've seen the way he handled it. And I think it's fascinating if you want to talk about it, because it's very different than what like the norm would be, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think your kid's having a tantrum, spank them, put them in the corner and you're good. And tell them just to stop crying. And it shouldn't be like that. At least in my opinion, it shouldn't be like that. To me, that's just your way of invalidating their feelings.
Yeah.
And I love the way you handle it.
So the first thing I try to do is when I know he's having a tantrum about something, let's say I don't know what he's having a tantrum about. Let's say I was in the other room and suddenly he starts crying. I don't know what he's doing. There are levels, but first thing I try to do is I like try to see what he's having the actual tantrum about. I'm like,
figure out the cause.
And I get down on his level. I'll bend down and I'll be like, look at me in the eyes, like, hey, look at me. We're talking. Like, what's going on? What happened?
And I have to say, getting down to your child's level and talking to them face to face, and I'm sure there's a psychology behind this I'm not aware of, but it's a whole different ballgame, because I feel like when you're talking above them, it's more, they don't feel heard and they don't feel like you are trying to understand them. Whereas if you're talking them face to face, like, look at me, pay attention to me, let's figure this out.
Yeah. It can be figured out. And you know what? And sometimes when they're in the middle of throwing that really harsh tantrum, like I said, depending on what it's about, because a lot of it stems from what it's about. I feel like there's no reasoning. There's no like, here, let me show you. It's so easy. Like, stop throwing a fit. Like, you're fine or whatever. What I'm doing is just like, I'm just trying to figure out the source of what's going on. If I can't figure it out, then I'm just like, all right, we'll ride this out together.
Yeah.
Do you want to go in the other room? What do you want to do? But if I know the source of the tantrum, so like, I'll tell you about what happened with like the Cheetos, for instance. So I gave him Cheetos on a plate. I was making dinner. I gave Benjamin Cheetos on the plate. And I know I've done this before. I know I've woken up in like bad moods, and like, let's say I'm just in a bad mood. And
like groggy
or whatever. And let's say like I spill my coffee. Like, what's the first thing you're gonna do? You're like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Like in my mind, I'm just like cussing myself out essentially,
I do
right?
all the
Like,
time.
you know what I mean? You almost like want to just throw shit away. You're like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't even want to eat breakfast anymore. You know?
I'm really
you get
bad
like
at
this,
that.
you know? So, I gave him Cheetos. I was cooking dinner. I was like, here you go. You know, you can have a snack. I gave him these little like Cheeto puffs. He puts them on a plate. He got distracted because he left his car in the way. He ended up tripping. The Cheetos fall freaking everywhere. And he starts crying. He's like pissed that these Cheetos fell, right?
Yeah.
Normal toddler tantrum. He's fucking fuming. Those are his Cheetos. My first reaction, of course, because he's high energy, I want to get high energy. Like, oh my God, fucking calm down, dude. Like, had it been the old me, like before I decided to make this change, I would be like, dude, fucking relax. Okay. They're fucking Cheetos. Like, look, pick them up. Or if he wouldn't have stopped crying, I probably would have spanked him and been like, that's fucking enough, you know?
Yeah.
But what I did was I turned around, and because I kept my cool, it helped the situation so much more. I turned to him and I was just like, oh, I see you dropped your Cheetos. Look, they're not gone. You can still eat them. I got down on his level. I got down on my knees, and very slowly, because I wanted him to help me, I started putting the Cheetos back onto the plate very slowly so he could see my hand motion. See, look, they just go back. They just go back.
Yeah.
Mira, todo está bien. Mira. And when I started doing that, he immediately stopped. He looked at me. The tears were still running down on his face. He got down on his knees. He started eating them, but with one hand, he was putting one on one plate. He was eating them with the other.
Typical
putting
Ben.
one. But exactly. And eventually he helped me put all the Cheetos back on the plate. He sat down and he continued watching his show.
Yeah.
Avoided a spanking, avoided a power struggle, avoided yelling at him. Like, there's no need for it. I feel like a lot of how you react to situations will be how your kids react. The way Julio put it to me was like, you know, we all have that one person in our lives. You're like, don't have this person in an emergency because they just make the situation worse because they just freak out over everything. And then you have that one person that seems super annoying in the moment, right? Because they're oddly calm, but that's the person you go to help you figure this shit out, especially when the emotions like calm down and stuff. You're like, okay, what's really going on? That's the person that makes you realize, oh shit, this really isn't that big of a deal. We just move the couch this way, turn this way, and then we return the package down the street. Like, you're like, okay, it wasn't that big of a deal, right? That's the person I need my kids to be. I need them to realize, hold on, calm down, take a step back.
Yeah. What's
really going on here? And I feel a lot of that starts with us as parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I feel like for me, when it comes to dealing with the tantrums, the biggest thing I've had to learn is it starts with the parents, and you have to learn how to have a little bit more patience with them. Having patience, getting down on his level. And yes, I'm not perfect. There have been times where I fucking lost it on him because I could not take it anymore. And I just didn't have the solution.
Because we only have a certain threshold too.
Yeah, I'm not a fucking,
handle the
you know what I mean?
screams
I have emotions myself, and I can be reached to my limits. But what I'm noticing now is I'm trying to do more and more is when I feel like I'm getting to my limits, I walk away. I'm like, you know what? There's nothing productive to be done here. You throw your fit, I'm walking away. I'm you know what? I'm going to continue doing whatever I'm doing. If I'm cooking dinner, I'm cooking dinner. You're eventually going to get tired of it, and it's not going to bug me any. I'm showing you that your emotions are yours to handle by yourself because I can only aid you and guide you. I can't fix them for you. I'm definitely not going to tell them what to feel, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I want to ask you before we talk about how we handle it in public. I know this is just the way I handle it in my home. I want to know how you handle when the girls throw fits.
So I'm going to tell this story first about you real quick so I can kind of compare it. Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes. Thanksgiving.
And we'll go into this more, I think, in the next part. But Ben was throwing a pretty bad tantrum, and it was a long one.
Yes.
It wasn't just bad, it was long.
Yes. To preface, I let him watch the iPad. I let him have iPad time. And he was pissed that something had happened with the iPad, like it exited out of it. And when I was trying to help him, I tried to calm him down and say, hold on, I can show you. Like, once again, showing you, look, it's very simple. Just push the button to go back. He decided to stomp his feet because he was pissed. So I said, you've stomped your feet. And that's like not something we're doing here. You've lost the privilege of the iPad, and I took the iPad away. So that's what it was.
And it was a pretty long tantrum. And the whole time, Crystal really kept her cool, like the entire time. And Ben was just crying, and she was totally like walking him through it. And I admire that so much. I think that is amazing. Unfortunately, I don't have that amount of patience. So, for example, Annabelle used to have a lot of trouble transitioning. That was like the main source of her tantrums.
Oh, yes, I remember you telling me
what I mean by transitioning is transitioning from one activity to another, or like if we're at the park and we're leaving, if we're at the trampoline park and we had to leave. She did not do well with those transitions. That's mostly the only time we had the tantrums, but they were bad. My first thing I always do is get down to the level. What really worked for Annabelle was like, do you need a hug right now? That's where I always started.
Love that.
She would that used to like, you hugged her and everything went away.
Sometimes you need the loving.
Yeah. If that didn't work, then you need to calm down. It's okay. I would give her warnings too. So, that's a whole other thing, but I would give her warnings. I would let her know, I warned you that we had to leave. You know, we have to leave. We have to go do this, this, and that. We need to go. It's okay to be sad. And I always let her know, I always validate her feelings. Like, it's hard leaving when you're having so much fun.
Yeah.
I let them know that it's okay to be angry and upset, but there's other ways to handle it.
Yeah.
Now, I would talk to them for a few minutes. I would give them a minute to calm down, to let the emotions kind of come down on their own. But if I notice that, okay, this is kind of dragging out a little too long, that's when I will go ahead and really intervene. And I try not to yell at them too often because I want when I do yell at them for it to mean something,
Absolutely.
right?
Same thing with like spanking, yelling. Like when you've reached that limit, you know there's no.
I want you to know that when I raise my voice or when I'm yelling at you, it's because I've had enough, and this is your last warning. It usually will take me a while to get to that point, but when I get to that point, I will straight up sit her down and I will look at her in the face at her level still and let her know, like, that is enough.
Yeah.
Mom has hit her threshold. And while I am trying to validate your feelings, we do not act like this, and I will not condone it. So I'm a little bit more, I don't know what you would call it.
I feel like you have less threshold than I do for sure.
Yes, I am very much like, I will be patient with you. I will try to work it with you, but you have a limit.
Yeah.
Once you hit my limit and once you've hit a certain point, that is when I call enough, and that is when there will be consequences.
I agree.
And normally those consequences would be, so I kind of base consequences on my kids' love languages. So for Annabelle, her love language is physical touch, quality time. I will put her in timeout.
Okay.
Whereas Vivian, if I put her in timeout, that wouldn't do anything. With Vivian, what really hurts her is if I tell her, I'm mad at you and you're making me very angry right now.
Right.
Then she'll ask, Mommy, I want a hug. She doesn't like when you tell her, she doesn't like being yelled at. But if I were to just say, you know what, you need to go to timeout, she'd gladly go and still throw a fit and she wouldn't even care. Whereas if I tell her, you're making me really upset right now, I am very angry, she right away switches and she'll be like,
she knows,
Mommy, I'm sorry. Mommy, I want a hug. I want a hug. That's her thing. Her's like, I want a hug. That's her way of saying, I'm sorry.
I'm raising the white flag.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, with Annabelle, that really won't do anything. She'll just fight back with words. I'll go back. I don't want to go back and forth with her.
Yeah,
so with
no
her,
power struggle. There is no power struggle
So
here.
I won't go back and forth with her. I will tell her, you need to go to your room. Because her being away from us and not spending quality time as a family, that kills her right in the gut.
Yeah.
So, and I know that if I tell her it's time for you to go to your room and you need to have a little bit of time out, she right away will snap it up.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't, she'll go to her room and just kind of let her cry it out there. Let her know when you're done crying and you feel better, you can come down and join us, but we will not be disrupted with the tantrum.
Yeah.
You want to do that, you do it on your own time.
Agreed.
But yeah, so I try to follow the same kind of guides you do. I just have a lower threshold, and I will only let them push so far.
So I think it's interesting, right? Because our thresholds are obviously very clearly different, and obviously we all have our limits, right? No one's perfect.
Absolutely.
I am not freaking Mother Teresa over here, and sometimes my limits vary. Like there'll be times where I'm like, you know what, you've really pushed the limit today. Like you only have so much. I feel like though when it comes to where we're similar, where we're different, I feel like when it comes to how I deal with the tantrum, how I punish, or like I guess discipline rather, not punish, is I punish more like something called like logical consequence. Mm-hmm. So it would just be like almost like having to do with the action. So like for instance, like Thanksgiving, you acted up about the iPad when there are rules about the iPad. Therefore, you have no iPad. Mm-hmm. No two consequences I feel like are maybe like the same. Mm-hmm. I've tried the timeouts with Ben. It doesn't work. I've tried spanking Ben. And that's when I've like started to really realize like spanking doesn't do
same
shit.
Here. Yeah.
At the all of the research aside, like all the way to the spectrum of doing like serious harm to your children, but at its best, at its like only pro of, if you want to call it a pro of spanking, is it does nothing.
Yeah.
And I've realized that with Ben, it does nothing. And we're trying, like I've told you, trying to like get to the point where I don't spank him at all. Like I very rarely even spank him now. And even then I wouldn't say I spank him. It is a like reminder tap. Like I give him like a little reminder tap.
Reminder tap.
That's what I call it. But even then he knows that's last resort.
Yeah.
He knows, like what I told you about when he threw that fit and it finally had reached my limit. I gave him a little tap on the leg. Like that's enough. You've exhausted all other efforts. He stopped right away. He's like, all right, realize I've reached my limits. But if I constantly spanked him all the time for everything, he's eventually, my kid's a big kid. He's eventually going to either fight back like we all do, or he's going to just not care.
Yeah.
I need him to understand there's levels to the consequences that he's doing. There's levels to how, like, not everything is, punishment is severe. Yeah. Like, it should be things, more than anything, I feel like they should be teaching moments. And punishments or like severe consequences should be reserved for really, really fucked up things.
Yes, absolutely.
Not natural, logical, but I feel like where we're the same is we both clearly agree that they should be allowed to feel how they want to feel. Yes, you're allowed to feel freaking pissed.
To feel like it's
doesn't
okay.
change the fact that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, I want them to know that it's okay to feel angry or upset at certain times, but that's not the way we handle it.
Yeah.
So while I validate your feelings, the way you're acting is not okay. Yeah. And to me, that's kind of like the bottom line with it, right? I understand your feelings. You're valid for having these feelings. However, this is not how we handle these feelings.
Yeah.
And there are ways we can handle it. We can talk, we can cry, we can, find something else to do that's equally as fun, or sometimes we just need to learn to accept what it is. Like if we're leaving the park.
I feel like maybe where we're both seeing this on the same level, it's like when it comes to like telling that it's okay, like it's okay for you to be pissed, dude. Like I'm pissed like in my own head, right? It's that I'm not so focused on teaching him how to be obedient, especially in front of other people. Like I'm not trying to be that mom that's like, oh, her kid's like, she's got them like this, like, because that doesn't teach him anything about being an adult. By teaching him, hey, dude, like you said, perfectly like you said, like with Annabelle, I hear you. It sucks. Like you're angry. I get it, but that's not how we act. Mm-hmm. It teaches her that as an adult, like when she has a confrontation with a coworker, I fucking can't stand this bitch. She's getting on my fucking nerves, but I can't fucking punch her in the face. But what I am going to do is tell her, you know what, you're doing this wrong. And I feel like you're overstepping your boundary here. Yeah. Let's keep this for you and this for me. Mm-hmm. And we can exist as coworkers. Yeah. Versus having her grow up to be passive aggressive and not knowing how to confront other people as an adult. Yeah. And then therefore burning relationships every which way she goes, right?
Absolutely. I think that's why making sure we're validating their feelings, teaching them, giving them the tools they need to deal with these feelings are so important. But then it gets really complicated for certain people when you're in public.
So I want to ask you, because this seems to be a very popular question. How do you handle tantrums in public? Or even meltdowns in public? Because kids have meltdowns.
Meltdowns, yeah. Meltdowns and tantrums kind of the same thing for me. I handle them exactly how I would handle them at home.
Agreed.
I think that because we're in public doesn't mean that I'm not going to yell. If I'm not going to yell at you behind closed doors, I'm not going to yell at you in public. Or if I'm not going to yell at you in public, I'm not going to yell at you behind closed doors. Because at the end of the day, my concern is my children.
Yep.
My concern is not how I look to other people. And my concern is not how other people see my kids. Because at the end of the day, I'm probably not going to see any of these strangers again.
Yeah, totally.
And if I have a friend and she thinks my kid's a bratty, then maybe we don't need to be hanging out with that friend.
Yeah.
I have had friends and clients of mine who have had kids, and when I'm with them, they throw tantrums and they apologize. I'm like, don't you ever apologize for your kid throwing a tantrum. Mm-hmm. This is what happens with kids. It's not a magic switch with children that because we're in public, the tantrums could turn off. No,
yeah.
They are children in the house and outside the house. And at the end of the day, this is what children do.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? This is how I handle the tantrums. I'm going to validate your feelings, but I will get down to your level and let you know this is not okay. If that means me raising my voice a little bit in public, then so freaking be it.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to disrespect my kids behind closed doors. And I won't do it in public.
I 110% agree with that. I will not become a different parent in front of the people to make them feel like I'm a better mother. Ben were to throw a fit in public. Thankfully, I will say, Ben has not been bad in public. But if he were to...
Oh my God.
What?
I forgot about house priest. Y'all, I'm the worst mom ever. We're over here recording and my phone goes off. And house preschool 30 minutes and she needs to eat lunch. Oh my God, that was horrible. Okay, anyways.
Real life moments from real moms.
Back to the original topic. You were talking about how Ben... the worst. You're talking about how Ben is pretty good in public.
Yeah.
And how you handle his tantrums in public.
He's really good in public. I'm really thankful for that. We have yet to have like a super meltdown in public. But if he did, and this goes around, like even if he were to throw a tantrum, like let's say around family or something.
Yeah.
Like you said, I will handle it exactly the way I would handle my home. My parenting needs to stay consistent for him to take me serious. I feel like when your kid is throwing a fit in public, a series of tantrums in itself, right? Like we're trying to make our kids understand. The point is to try to get them to understand like it's okay to feel these emotions. But as adults, because you're going to turn into an adult one day, this is how you handle it. We're not allowed to throw fits. We are allowed to like talk to ourselves and calm down and figure out how the hell we're going to solve the problem.
There are other ways to handle these
tantrums because they're not a sign of bad kids. Well, we're talking about regular tantrums, right? But I think when it comes to being in public, we need to stop putting judging eyes on moms.
Yes.
Because one, if you're a parent, you fucking been there.
Yes.
Don't play. So I feel like, one, when we're out in public, like stop looking at that mom like that, y'all. Like, first of all, if you've had kids, you freaking been there. Don't lie.
Just because you may not be in that stage anymore, it does not mean
you haven't been there. That
this parent is less than or whatnot.
Stop judging people by what you see for 3 minutes while our kid is throwing a fit. Like, don't do that. Like this, we have to stop making moms so fearful about their kids throwing fits in publics because instead of making it a teachable moment, like we want fits to be, right? We want to teach them. And that's every fit they throw is another step closer to them not throwing them anymore because we're teaching them. You're making them go into a panic because they're trying to shut their kid up. And it breaks them out of like their consistent.
And I also think if you're on the other end of it, where you're the mom whose kid's throwing a tantrum, you know how you should react to it? You don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Those people ain't nobody to you, and they're not going to help you parent.
Let them look.
Your parents. You're your
Let them
child.
say what they want to say. Let them have the judgmental eyes. Unless they're going to come and help you, ignore them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sucks to be you. Got to deal with my child screaming. I have to deal with it all the time.
Yeah,
You'll be fine.
Exactly. We're in a public place.
Yes.
What do you think? I'm going to just keep my child at home so they don't throw any fits? Like, absolutely not.
I am so sick of that narrative that your kid's throwing a fit in public, it directly reflects on you as a mother because it does not. And if you feel like it does, or if you feel like because you see a child throwing a tantrum that the mother's not doing their job, there's something seriously wrong with you or you're not a parent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're not a parent, maybe I can understand it. And maybe when you do become a parent, you will understand it. But if you're a parent and you're still judging,
shame on you.
Shame on you. Because that's not what, as mothers, we need to come together and help each other out. Especially like, okay, we're at a park and there's a kid throwing a fit. I will offer to help with the other baby. Or like, oh, don't worry, I'll watch them while you handle this. You know what I mean? Like I've done it so many times. There's been moms that have done it for me where I've had Vivian and I remember I had her in the car seat and was throwing a fit trying to leave speech. And there was another mom was like, if you want to get in the car, I'll watch Vivian for you so that, you know, you can go get in the car and then come back and get the baby.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that to me is like,
what's so hard about doing that?
But people,
what does it cost you to not judge somebody? Because you know what? That might be the only fit that child's thrown all week. It just happened to be in public. Yeah. Does that make her any less of a mother? No. And mothers, stop feeling like you can't parent the way you want to parent, even in public. I will say this. I know that sometimes we feel pressured by those around us whose opinions we do care about, right? To feel like we have to have our kids better under control or something, right? Or our kids just love making us look bad at the wrong moments, right?
Yeah.
But these strangers, who are they to you?
Exactly.
Who are they to you?
You'll probably never see them again.
They don't pay your bills. They don't take care of your kids. They have no interest in your kids. So why does their opinion about your kid matter?
Just remember, at the end of the day, your number one priority is parenting your child. Yes. And that should stay number one. Everything else is secondary.
Yes. And you know what? I read something that I thought was so funny because it was so perfect. It's like the perfect parent does exist. They just don't have kids yet.
Exactly.
So stop with the when I have kids. Because no, until you have kids, you don't know. Exactly. And when you have kids, you will look at another mom and be like, dude, I get it. Been there.
Well, just remember, guys, this is just the way we do things. We're not saying anyone's way is better than the other or the way we do things is the right things or you should try to do things this way. This is just our thoughts on the whole toddler tantrum situation, especially in the public. And this is just what we do and works for us and our kids. And what works for us doesn't work for you. And what works for you doesn't work for us. I mean, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But if you want to try some of the things that we've done with our kids and practice a little more patience, I think we all as parents can learn to be a little more patient.
I do want to touch on this a little bit. I know we said at the beginning that we're not here to we're joking about not changing minds and hearts. You know, we're not like anybody looking for a vote or anything like that.
Yeah.
But what I do hope is that if you're listening to this and you've considered changing your parenting, because it's different than the way you grew up or the old school way of doing things, and you're just fearful of doing it, and that's the reason why you won't do it. Let me tell you something that I want everybody to hear me loud and clear about. There is a difference between permissive parenting, there is a difference between authoritarian parenting, and there is a difference between authoritative parenting. Permissive parenting is not the same as what this essentially new wave of parenting about validating your kids' emotions is about. I know that to certain people, and I'm speaking mostly to probably the older generation, when we put labels on what we're doing with our kids, it is not snowflakey. When I know listening to the word say, even let's not even go too far. Like our mother, when we were talking to her about schedules, about how our kids are on a schedule, she thought it was crazy until she took a step back and even said, oh, you know what? I had you guys on a schedule too, like a daily routine. We never named it anything, right? So when we're naming things like validating feelings, parenting, we're talking about labeling their emotions or whatever. This does not equate me sitting in a corner with my kid, kumbayaing with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because I say I'm validating his feelings does not mean I'm letting him do whatever the fuck he wants. And I feel like that's the big misconception there.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of people don't bother changing their parenting because they feel like, just letting my kid run all over me. No. Example, okay? We were at my parents' house. This was a while ago, and Ben was in the pool. And what kid doesn't love the freaking pool? I remember when we were in the pool and my mom would tell us it's time to go home. We were obviously I wouldn't say anything to her face, but in my mind I was like, God damn it, dude, I don't want to fucking get out this pool. I'm having fun, you know? Mm-hmm. We've all fucking been there. We hate leaving a party too soon.
Oh yeah.
So just because I don't tell my kid, well, we're leaving and we're leaving now, get the fuck out, and it's what I say, how I say it, when I say it in front of other people, doesn't mean just because I decided when Ben was getting at the pool, he was clearly upset. He didn't want to get out the pool. He's playing with his friends and his cousins, but it was time. It is okay for me to say, dude, I get it. Just like I told him, playing in the pool is a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun when I was a kid in the pool. And I know it sucks being told you can't play anymore, but we can come back another day. It's still time to go.
Yeah.
Guess what? He's still leaving when I say we're leaving. He's still getting out of the pool when I say we're getting out of the pool. And I did it without degrading him.
But that's a logic we as adults use too. Why can't kids use the same logic, you know?
Exactly. Like, just because I'm saying, but just so you guys know, when I say like, dude, I get it. Like, you want to play in the pool. Being in the pool is a ton of fun, but it's time to go now. When I say that, that is me validating his emotions.
Yeah.
It's very different than I know the mindset or the mentality of like when you say validate emotions, you assume that somebody's sitting there like, well, how does that make you feel wanting to get out of the pool?
Yeah.
Do you want to get out of the pool now? Okay, you don't have to. I'm not doing that with my kid. He's still getting out because it's time to go.
Yeah.
But I can do it with letting him know, hey, dude, I see you. Like, it sucks. I get it. Being in the pool is a ton of fun, but it's still time to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so if you thought that the reason you wouldn't want to change your parenting to be more like open communication with your kids or being more patient or whatever, because you assume that being patient or validating emotions is synonymous with being permissive, it's not. I feel like I parent very authoritative, not authoritarian. Authoritarian would be more like a dictatorship, where I do have expectations of my son. I will let him know what those expectations are, but I will also give him the tools to meet those expectations.
Yeah.
At the same time, while listening to him along the way. Like with the iPad situation, Thanksgiving, I didn't give him the iPad back. I said, when mom says you lost something, you lost it. And this is why you lost it. I'm giving you a reason of why you lost it.
Yeah.
I held my boundaries firm, even if it meant everybody staring at me because my son is throwing a fit, even if it meant dealing with that tantrum. He still didn't get the iPad back. So guess what he learns from that? When mom says something's going to happen, oh, she means business.
Yeah.
And I did it without...
And your word means something.
And my word means something, which is what I want more for my kids than them to fear me. And I'm fearing them into behaving. Like I was telling Bianca earlier when we were talking actually about this, was that when it comes to me specifically as a parent, I feel like with Bianca, it's the same way. I can't speak for her, but I'm playing the long game with my kid. That's my idea. I don't know how. I could totally be fucking my kid up and I have no fucking clue, right? I could be like thinking this way and I'm all wrong. But
yeah,
for me, the research shows it's worth a shot. I know this is how I hope to be treated as an adult. So I'm going to treat my son the same way. Obviously, he's a child, but still, I'm playing the long game here. Yeah. I'm not in it for the flashes of when we're around other people and he seems very obedient to me. I'm in it for building my son and my daughter's character as who they are as people, all the way well into adulthood and hopefully to their kids. And that goes way beyond disciplining. And I know Bianca can agree with me with this when it comes to disciplining our kids. It's never to like punish them. It's more to discipline. And our goal is never to humiliate because you will never learn anything from humiliation.
Yeah. What is it that you see them doing? Like what problems are they going to have as an adult that they're having now that you can give them the tools to be able to fix those problems or handle those problems, handle those situations. And I think touching on the point where you said, I mean, this for the long run, I think that when it comes to tantrums, teaching them it's okay to feel certain ways and your feelings are never should be invalidated, but there are better ways to handle it.
Exactly.
There are better ways to handle it to where you can maintain your respect, maintain respect for others.
Exactly.
And that's
teach them.
Yeah. And that's just what it is. We just want to make sure we are raising
good adults, productive adults, independent
and
adults.
That starts with
these little things. And I feel like you said it perfectly, giving them the tools. Like, I don't want my son to be a 25-year-old man stomping his feet because he didn't get his way.
Yeah.
What I'm going to teach him is just like, holy shit, what do I do now? There's a problem in front of me. How do I solve it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I start off by doing it I value so much more I guess what we'll leave it with is this for me personally. I value so much more the people that I'm raising and the people that they're going to be. As parents, parenting our kids, number one is teaching them what's the most important for us on our list is integrity and character. Them not being scared of hard work. For me, I value so much the person and the people that my kids are going to be over what people think of me as a parent.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like a lot of these fears of us like dealing with kids in public and a lot of it comes with people are staring at me. What are people going to think of me as a parent? Who gives a shit? What does your kid think of you as a parent? What kind of kid are you raising?
Yeah.
And what kind of parent do you know in your heart you are?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
I agree. I think that we'll leave this off with, you know what's best for you. You know what's best for your child. Trust your mama instinct. While you're teaching them these life lessons of why tantrums are not acceptable, you're also giving them tools. Oh, man.
Remember, you guys, this is just the way we do things in our home. We're not trying to talk bad about anybody whose parents different or even push you to parent different.
Yeah.
Not at all. But...
I think we should get into some tea time and freaking lighten the mood up a little bit.
So this one, clearly I feel very, very passionate about that. But This is something that a lot of people feel very passionately about. This is gonna ruffle a little feathers herd.
So we had a few people message us on. We always put every week when we record, or every time we record, we kind of put on Instagram sticker and ask you guys what you want to hear, what things you want to like us to touch on. And one of the things that we've gotten a few times is joint bank accounts and what our views on them.
Joint or separate?
So I'm actually gonna throw the question to you first, Crystal.
Okay.
How do you feel about a joint bank account?
Okay, first of all, in my house, and this is just across the board, unless you have, in my mind, the most incredible skill when it comes to communication and discipline, I think you have to have joint bank accounts. Me personally, in our house, joint bank accounts. And guess what? Even though I don't work and I don't contribute a monetary like paycheck or whatever to our home, it's still all of our money and it's all in one pot. Like,
yeah.
I feel like when people have separate bank accounts, this is when you run into a lot of money issues.
I've heard the saying separate bank accounts, separate lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it should all be one. And not just that, you keep better track of your finances when it's in one. Like I said, though, there are people who have had this successfully done with separate bank accounts, but I feel like it takes a lot of communication and discipline. Like, you imagine, right? Like, if Hula and I, let's say we had $100 left over at the end of the month or something, right? Like, to make it really simple. It's $100, no matter which way you slice and dice it. And we have to agree on how to spend it or whatever. But if I make a certain amount and he makes a certain amount and he thinks I have $50 left over and I think he has $50 left over, so combined we have $100. And I'm like, okay, well, he has 50 left over. He should still have 50 left over. So I'm going to spend and go get my nails done. And then he's like, well, she should have 50 left over. So I'm going to go ahead and buy that new video game.
Yeah.
Then you're both like, wait, oh, fuck. Like, I thought but you're supposed to have $50 left over too. Like,
yeah.
I feel like it's so hard to keep track of your finances when they're separate.
Yeah.
Because even those small swipes when you buy something at the store, at the gas station, like that candy here or that lunch there, that shit adds up.
Oh,
and if you don't see it coming out of your bank, like you think the other person's not doing it.
Ethan spends a lot of money on lunch.
Yeah. Tell me like the snack stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think is what I want to know?
So me personally, I prefer joint bank account. I just think it's easier that way. Everything goes in one pot, but I can fully understand the separate bank accounts. Okay, so little context behind it. Ethan and I got married when I was 19. So I had nothing. I had nothing in my name. I had no money. Yeah. I had zero. He had a little bit of debt, but that was about it. But he didn't have many assets. I mean, we started our lives together with nothing. We kind of just built from there, right?
Yeah.
I think I would maybe have a different opinion on it if maybe I got married now where I'm making my own money.
Yeah.
He makes his own money. We both, make a certain amount. We lived our own separate lives for a while. I think maybe I would feel different about it. And I can understand having the separate bank accounts at that point. Yeah. I think that if that's what works for you, that's smart. As far as like the spending goes. So the reason why I personally prefer the joint bank account is because it goes in one pot, right? Yeah. Everything I'm making, everything you're making,
easy.
we can decide how much money we can save together, how much we can spend together. It's just, we have one family, we have 2 kids that we share. I feel like it just gets so complicated. Like, well, who's buying the diapers this week?
Yeah.
Or who's buying the girl, Annabelle needs shoes for school. Like, are you paying for that or am I paying for that? Like, I just think it can get
when you go to dinner?
Well, I think the way people do it is they have like one account that they share. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but how do you allocate for like, do you just put a certain amount for date night in there? Because think about this. Like if I have my own bank account, Julio has his own bank account, right? And let's say you're fair, right? He makes more money than me, so he picks up more bills than I do.
But then what's the point of splitting accounts?
I have no clue. But let's just say that's the case. If we went to dinner and let's say he had to pick up like a really big bill this month or something for me.
Then you'd pick up
Then dinner. I would pick up dinner. But what if I didn't have the money? So he's just like, okay, I'll pick it up, but I'm picking up a lot of things here. Like,
I think a lot of it comes down to,
I would love to know. I'm not saying it could not be successful. Like I said, I'm assuming with communication and discipline, it's totally successful. Yeah. And like you said, in this day and age, if I was a woman, let's say I'm 29 years old, if I was just getting married to Julio and I had my own money and stuff, I'd probably be a little bit more hesitant to combine our finances. I could see that.
Yeah. Because I feel like when you get older, you also accumulate debt separately.
Yeah, student loans and all that.
His debt becomes your debt. And when you do that, I can understand that.
But I feel like you should like have a clear cut. I would just love to hear how somebody does it.
So I think the biggest reason for me wanting a joint account, or not wanting a joint account, but thinking that it's just easier or, why a separate account maybe works more is, okay, put yourself in the scenario that you said. You got $100, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say both of you make the same amount of money.
Okay.
You each have your own bank account. You have $50 left in your account. He has $50 left in his account. He doesn't want to have to tell you what he's spending his money on. All the bills are paid, right? So like all the bills are paid. That $50 is his money. He can choose to spend it how he wants, and you can choose to spend it how you want. He has no say in how you spend your money, and you have no say in how he spends his money, right? I think that's the reason for separate accounts.
Okay.
So that makes sense. So like all the bills already are paid. I think it's just not wanting to have a say in what the other person is also spending and kind of having that little bit of independence, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't really work in our marriage, and that's the reason why they separate joint accounts, because, you know, for such a long time, he made so much more money than I did.
Yeah.
I'm barely now starting to bring in an actual like income, like a full-time income.
Yeah.
But prior to the last 2 or 3 years, he made all the money. I made hobby money. Like I made a little bit here and there to kind of pay for a few extra date nights. And if we were to do separate accounts, right, and I contributed a little bit to the bills, I wouldn't have much left over, and he would have a crap ton left over.
Yeah.
And what if I wanted to get my nails done? I couldn't get my nails done because I don't have enough money left over. I don't know. I personally couldn't. This is just me personally. Nobody take offense to this. I could not be with a man who is like,
maybe ask him.
You have no money to get your nails done. Then like, sorry, like you're not getting your nails done. Or here, babe, let me give you money. Ew, don't give me money.
Yeah,
like,
we're married.
What do you mean? Let me give you money.
And then what happens in the case of like in my case, right? Like where I went from working, let's say, like we were talking about terms of marriage, right? Let's say I never had the intention to be a career woman, but let's say I did. And I was a career woman, and then I had to change of heart and decided, you know, I'm bringing a full-time income. Yeah. He's bringing a full-time income, but now I want to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah. How does that work?
Now? I put all the bills on him.
Yeah, I don't know. And the idea of like maybe my partner giving me an allowance or something just doesn't really sit right with me.
I feel like separate lives, like, I don't know. I can get having separate bank accounts definitely when you're not married and you're living together and you're adults. Totally would recommend that.
Yeah.
I just can't get behind it because I'm like, well, you're in a marriage, right? You're supposed to be equals. Yeah. Like you're supposed to be partners. Then one's not above the other, no matter how much you make. And if you agree to let one spouse, whether that's the man or the woman, not work, then you agree on financially helping them and taking care of them because it's equal.
I think the whole argument over joint accounts, it's so personal. And while these are our opinions, there's so many factors that go into it.
Oh, yeah.
Did both of you accumulate debt before? Does one person make a significant amount more? How are you going to split the bills? How do you split the bills?
How do you feel comfortable? Like some women feel very comfortable keeping that independence, so they have their like runaway money.
I don't want to have to feel like you're inferior to me because you handle your money and you're giving me money. I want to feel like we are a team. This is our money. This is our lives together. This is how we finance our lives together.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't want to feel like you're paying for me to live, or I have to borrow your money. But if it works for you,
wonderful. But I just wonder, like, how do you, in the sense of, like, if two people made the exact same or close to the exact same amount of money, and like had like about 50-50 equal debt, whatever, you know, pretty much equals financially. Yeah. I could see like how that could work in the sense of like you guys could both be disciplined to like when it comes to common goals, like if you want to save for a house.
Yeah.
But if one person's making $100,000 a year and one's making $25,000, how do you expect the person with making $25,000 a year to help you save for a house if their money all goes to bills, basically, if you have them split, right? Although I'm assuming, like, let's say, for instance...
But if you're going to... Okay, so let's say that he makes more money, so he's going to pay more of the bills. I just don't see the point in doing the split thing. Like, we're going to split, let's split it.
So, question. I know somebody who does this, and I don't know her personally, but this girl's been very, like, she's in one of those, like, MLMs, so she's very vocal about her finances. And she's very vocal about the fact that her and her husband have separate bank accounts because she'd like to remain independent. Totally get it. But she had mentioned on there, like, especially with the holidays coming up, that her husband's a major spender. He's just not very good with money. And he makes more money than her. So they tried the separate bank accounts and trying to save separately. It just was not work because he makes more money. So the way they've arranged their stuff, or the way she says that they do it, right? I don't know for a fact, but basically his whole paycheck, all of his paychecks go to nothing but paying bills. Her paychecks are for the little bit that remains after the bills that she's helping him with, but then the rest goes to savings because they want to save for a house.
So what's the point of splitting?
What's the point of having separate bank accounts?
If you're just gonna, if both of your needs are gonna come from both accounts, what's the point?
Exactly. Like money is such a huge reason why people fight. You kind of have to be on the same page. Like in that case, that doesn't make sense to me. Then why not just put it all in one pot and then put the remainder, like you should, to savings?
Yeah.
But at the same time, people have different, like men and women have different feelings about money. So like for instance, I may not work, right? Like I don't bring in a paycheck every Friday because I fucking work. I don't bring a paycheck every Friday, but I control all our finances like 100%. And I mean that in the sense of like, I pay the bills. I make sure everything gets paid. I could tell you how much is in the, tell them like when we go, right, like to pay for something, I'll be like, okay, we're paying for this. So we have this much left in the account, this and this and that, whatever. This is how much I'm hoping to put to savings this month. And he's like, okay, sounds great. Yeah. Like just literally that man is so oblivious. He just brings the bacon and that's pretty much it. Yeah. But if you married somebody who wasn't like that, who was more conscious of like needing more hands-on with the finances, maybe I could see needing your own separate accounts, because then it's like a power struggle. I think when one person concedes and like, you handle it, I don't want anything to do with it.
But I think that's what comes down to like freaking episode 1, being a good teammate. He brings it in, I handle it. It's a team. But yeah, so I feel like if you're going to do separate accounts, I think you just have to have set rules and standards. And I mean, that is some deep conversation that needs to be had.
Open, honest communication and some serious discipline, because
but there's nothing wrong with it.
Couple, you're going to want to have goals, right? Like you maybe want to own a home, or maybe you want to buy a really cool condo. That requires saving money, and it requires you guys both being on the same page. And that's the only reason why I feel like having the same account works. But I can see different scenarios where having separate accounts will work.
I can totally see where
especially in this day and age, right?
I can totally see where separate accounts work. I could see how they could work. I personally cannot get behind it. I just prefer the family unit. Like we are one, that kind of idea of a family. Yeah. And you know what?
You know what I'm realizing right now that you're talking is that financially, I mean, I'm going to expose myself here. I've never really contributed much ever.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm just realizing that because I'm like, maybe that's why I feel so passionate about it. Because even when I was working, I only worked, my entire check went to
health insurance
and daycare. Like every week when I got my paycheck, it went straight to childcare, because that's exactly the amount that I was. And I think that's why I'm like happy that at least like in my house, in my marriage, just like yours, it's like I have more control over the finances. Because if I didn't, and Julio was more like hands-on about being the control person, I would feel a little inferior because I'm not contributing.
Yeah, I've always had a job. I've never made like great money. I've always had a decent job though. I've never had a gap in income since we've gotten married. I always had some type of freaking side hustle.
I have just a really quick question for you now that we're talking about it. If you didn't want to have a side hustle and you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and that be like your sole focus or whatever it was, didn't want to work, would Ethan expect you to work or bring in money?
We've talked about it recently because I kind of told him I struggle with my current job situation. And he straight up told me, he's like, you know, you don't have to, you can just stay home and enjoy it. Because I'm getting a little sad because I'm starting to work so much that I'm not enjoying the kids as much.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And he straight up told me, he's like, you don't need to work. And it's funny you mentioned that too, because we had this conversation 2 days ago. He's about to commission as an officer soon, and where I've been moving a lot, so I'll pretty much lose my job and lose my income completely.
Yeah, your job is based out of being here.
Yeah, and so I won't have an income. And I was telling him, like, I need to find something that's more portable where I can still not have a gap in income. And he's like, but you know, you really don't have to, because I'll be making enough money to support us. He's like, it's not like, especially with that big, you know, jump in pay, he's like, I'll be making enough money. Like, you won't need to work. And I straight up told him, I'm like, me working is not so much because I want to contribute to the family finances and blah, blah, blah. You know, yes, that is, but I don't work because we need the money. I work because it is like a personal, it makes me feel so good to be able to say I make my own money. To me, bringing in money is just like a personal thing.
Yeah.
I like to have my own side thing. It feels like it gives me a little more purpose. It gives me a little bit more like pep in my step. It gives me something more, like when we were doing quarantine, Crystal, and I wasn't working at all, I was fucking losing my mind. Yeah. I sat in the house like this. I already cleaned the house. The kids already fed. What the fuck am I going to do? Like, I literally sat there like, I already cleaned. I cooked. The kids are fine. They're just playing. I got nothing to do. I have nothing to do.
That's so funny to me, right? Because like, I feel like for me personally, I have no desire to right now be nothing more, like, I hate to say be nothing more than a mom, but be a mom.
Being a mom is your priority.
Be a mom is like a huge priority of mine. So much so that like the original plan was, I told him I wasn't going to work or whatever. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And it was only going to be till the kids went to school. And then after realizing, because I thought I would have a much harder time with it, and this could be a totally different topic later, but I love it so much that we've come to the point where we realize I
plan on
pretty
working.
much will never go back to
and
work
that's fine.
until the kids are like in high school, basically,
I
or
think
off to
it's
college.
just a personal decision because
It is. Like, I feel happiest when I'm being their
kids.
mom. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But, and like, I cannot wait. Let me tell you, like, right now is hard, but I cannot wait to hit that stride where they're in school. Like, I'm talking about like actual school where they're like first grade, not kindergarten. Yeah. And like, I'm at home and I can do all the things I want to do around the house, like cook and clean and like get the laundry done on time. And, you know, all these things. I'm going to hit my stride as a freaking, like the stay-at-home mom I want to be, that it's hard to be when you have small kids that require all of your attention.
See, I am very much opposite. Not opposite, because I love being a mom. Being a mom is my number one priority over anything. I will turn down a job if it conflicts with my kid's schedule. I love being a mom, and I love the type of mom I am, but I cannot be 100% satisfied in my life personally without some type of, I guess, like a goal. I always have that more of a business mindset though. So I think it's a little bit different.
Turning things into money.
I can turn any hobby into money.
See, for me, it's more of like my personal goals, things like other than like this podcast, which I find so much fun. It's like a nice break from the kids. But for me, I feel like personal goal wise, and I've told Fool at first, it was like I wanted to go back into the workforce. For me, I have no desire to. What I would love to do, like if you ask me, my dream scenario would be to go to grad school. I would like, while the kids are like in elementary school-ish, get my master's, possibly get a PhD. I'd love to work in academia, like do nothing but teach. But like,
awesome.
I would only want to teach at a city college though. Yeah. And that's where I would be happy. But learning for the rest of my life, like I plan on going back to school, even if it's just to learn, even to get a second fucking bachelor's, which I'm even looking into now. That's like where I find my happiness and being a mom. But I hope the reason I also want to make sure I have, like you said, like your stuff on the side, I want to make sure because school's always been my thing, is that I also hope to raise Camila because the woman in this sense, right? Like, I want her to be independent and make her own money. I want to raise my daughters, because we live in a very different world, right? Men are no longer obligation to take care of you until you die because you can't divorce. Which is why, and Hula and I have agreed that we want to raise our son and daughter equally, as in you will be independent adults. Camila will be independent.
I just want them to.
I want you to know, mommy did the same thing where she got her degree. But if being a mom is your calling and you're in a loving relationship, you still need to have a career and a backup just in case something were, not saying putting it out there, but if it were to go sideways, because you can't live in La La Land.
Anyways, we went off on a whole other tangent, but
all right, guys, we hoped you enjoyed a little bit learning about the way we do things. I mean, I know we covered a lot today.
I know.
This is probably gonna be a little bit longer, but we can't wait to chat with you guys next week. We can't wait for you guys to hear next week's episode.
Next week, we are talking all about things that we wish people would have told us about pregnancy, motherhood, and postpartum.
Oh, that's going to be so much fun because I got a few things to say about that.
I know, me too. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to the Messy Buns Coffee Runs podcast.
And we'll see you guys next week.